Napoleon Bonaparte, the rise, the fall, the legend ***. Imagine a man born on a remote island, who rose to command the armies of France, crown himself emperor, and shake the very foundations of Europe. This is not fiction, this is history. This is the story of Napoleon Bonaparte. If you love gripping tales from the past, legends who reshaped the world, and stories that still echo today, hit that subscribe button, because this channel brings history to life. Chapter 1, Born to a Storm, The Early Years, 1769 to 1785, ***. It began on an island. Corsica, 1769. The Mediterranean sun scorched the stone walls of Ajaccio as a cry echoed from a modest house. On August 15, a boy was born to Carlo and Letizia Bonaparte, a child they named Napoleon Bonaparte. Corsica had only recently fallen into French hands. It was a proud, defiant island, and little Napoleon grew up steeped in tales of resistance, war, and honor. His father, a lawyer and minor noble, secured a scholarship for Napoleon to study in mainland France, a decision that would change the world. At just 9 years old, Napoleon left home for the Royal Military School in Brienne. There, he was mocked for his Corsican accent, his small stature, and his fierce temper. But the boy had one weapon sharper than any blade, his mind. He devoured books. Especially those on history and war. Caesar. Alexander. Hannibal. He wasn't just learning about them, he was preparing to surpass them. By 16, Napoleon graduated as a second lieutenant of artillery. While other boys celebrated, he plotted. France was teetering toward revolution, and Napoleon sensed that chaos would soon offer a ladder to climb. And he was ready. Chapter 2, The Revolutionary Rise, 1785 to 1796, ***. The French Revolution shattered the old order. Kings and nobles were toppled, the streets ran red with blood, and opportunity danced in the smoke. For an ambitious young officer like Napoleon, it was the perfect storm. In 1793, he made his name at Toulon. Royalists, supported by the British Navy, held the city. Napoleon, then just 24, devised a brilliant strategy to capture the heights overlooking the harbor. The plan worked. The city fell. He was promoted to brigadier general. Paris took notice. But power in revolutionary France was a dangerous game. One day you're a hero, the next you're a traitor. In 1795, Paris was again in chaos, royalists marched on the government. Napoleon was given command of the city's defenses. He didn't hesitate. He ordered a whiff of grapeshot, a brutal but effective cannon blast that scattered the rebels. In the eyes of the new rulers, the Directory, Napoleon was a savior. He was given command of the army of Italy. It was a ragtag, starving force. But in Napoleon's hands, it would become a weapon. What followed was one of the most brilliant campaigns in military history. In just 1 year, he defeated the Austrians, conquered northern Italy, and forced a peace treaty. He looted art, gold, and glory, but more importantly, he showed Europe that a new star had risen. If you're enjoying this story, consider subscribing. We bring forgotten legends back to life every week, ***. Chapter 3, Egypt and the East, 1798 to 1799, ***. But Napoleon was not content. He sought to strike at Britain's empire, by invading Egypt. In 1798, he sailed with a massive fleet and thousands of troops. He brought not just soldiers but scientists, historians, and artists. This was not just conquest, it was cultural. He won a brilliant victory at the Battle of the Pyramids. But soon after, disaster struck. Admiral Nelson of Britain destroyed the French fleet at the Battle of the Nile, trapping Napoleon in Egypt. Still, he explored. His team uncovered the Rosetta Stone, unlocked secrets of ancient Egypt, and spread French influence. Yet back in France, the government was crumbling. Napoleon saw his moment. He left Egypt in secret and returned to Paris a hero. The people cheered. The politicians trembled. And in November 1799, Napoleon orchestrated a coup. France no longer had a directory. It had a first consul. And his name was Napoleon Bonaparte. Chapter 4, Master of Europe, The Coronation and Conquests, 1800 to 1807, ****. As first consul, Napoleon went to work reshaping France. He reformed laws, rebuilt the economy, and restored order. But his ambitions weren't limited to France alone. In 1800, he crossed the Alps to face Austria once again. At the Battle of Marengo, his forces were nearly defeated, but through tactical brilliance, he turned the tide. Victory was his. The peace that followed was short-lived. In 1804, Napoleon made his boldest move yet. He crowned himself emperor. Not the Pope. Not the people. He placed the crown on his own head, declaring to the world, his power came from himself. From 1805 to 1807, Napoleon waged a series of breathtaking campaigns. At Austerlitz, he defeated the combined armies of Austria and Russia. At Jena, he crushed the Prussians. Europe bowed before the French eagle. He redrew borders, placed relatives on thrones, and brought the Napoleonic Code to conquered lands. He wasn't just a general, he was a builder of empires. But shadows were growing. Britain remained defiant. Russia was uneasy. And Spain, where he had installed his brother Joseph as king, became a quagmire. Chapter 5, The Spanish Trap and the Russian Gamble, 1808 to 1812, ****. Spain, meant to be a quick conquest, became a nightmare. Guerrilla warfare drained French strength. British forces under Arthur Wellesley, the future Duke of Wellington, landed to support the Spanish resistance. It was Napoleon's first prolonged defeat, not on the battlefield, but in spirit. He could win battles. But he could not tame a nation's will. Still, he turned his eyes eastward. In 1812, he launched his grandest campaign, the invasion of Russia. Over 600,000 men marched into the vast, cold lands. At Borodino, they fought one of the bloodiest battles of the age. Napoleon won, but it was a hollow victory. Moscow burned. The Russians refused to surrender. And winter came. The retreat was a nightmare. Freezing temperatures. Starvation. Ambushes. Disease. Of the 600,000 men who entered Russia, less than 100,000 returned. Europe smelled blood. If this journey into Napoleon's world fascinates you, don't forget to subscribe and share the story. More legends are on their way, ****. Chapter 6, The Fall of the Emperor, 1813 to 1814, ****. The Grande Armée was broken, but Napoleon was not done. In 1813, he gathered what forces he could for one last stand across Germany and France. At the Battle of Leipzig, called the Battle of Nations, he faced a massive coalition, Austria, Prussia, Russia, and Sweden. The numbers were overwhelming. Napoleon fought fiercely, but the tide of Europe was turning against him. He retreated into France. Still, he won stunning victories during the 6 Days Campaign, defeating larger armies with daring speed. But it was not enough. Paris was captured in 1814. The Senate turned on him. His marshals urged him to step down. Napoleon abdicated. He was exiled to the island of Elba. But even in exile, he watched. He waited. He planned. Chapter 7, The 100 Days and Waterloo, 1815, ****. Less than a year after his exile, Napoleon escaped Elba and returned to France. The news spread like wildfire. Soldiers sent to arrest him joined him instead. The people rallied. Paris opened its gates. The king fled. Napoleon was emperor again. Europe united once more to stop him. In June 1815, Napoleon faced the Duke of Wellington and the Prussian army at Waterloo in Belgium. The battle was fierce. Rain soaked the fields. Cannons roared. Cavalry clashed. At first, it seemed Napoleon might win. But the Prussians arrived late in the day. French lines broke. Panic spread. The dream died in mud and smoke. Napoleon fled the battlefield. Days later, he abdicated again. This time, there would be no Elba. Chapter 8, Saint Helena, The Final Exile, 1815–1821, ****. He surrendered to the British and was sent to Saint Helena, a remote, windswept island in the South Atlantic. There, he lived out his final years under watchful guard. He walked alone, dictated his memoirs, debated history with visitors. In 1821, he fell ill. On May 5, he died. His final words, France, army, head of the army. Josephine. The man who had crowned himself, who had commanded millions, who had redrawn the map of Europe, was gone. But not forgotten. If you've made it this far, you're clearly one of us, someone who lives and breathes history. Subscribe for more stories like this, because legends never die. They only wait to be told, ****.